Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. I'm Lynn with Plasma Energy Solution, and gosh, today is March 9th, I think, 2020. So today I want to just bring you some information, some testimonials I've had, Q&As I've had, and to start off with, I want to remind you that our special this month is the Plasma Energy Station, the never-ending plasma energy station. It's also called the Basic Preparedness Kit, and that comes with the vial of virus relief, which that's new. That's something we've just come out with, and those two that are purchased together, you get a $107 discount. So you'll want to go to the home page at plasmaenergysolution.com, and I've got more information about all of it there and the pricing and things like that for you. So do be sure to take a look at that. And I do want to mention something about supply chain. There's a lot of uncertainty about things that we take for granted that we can always order and have delivered in a timely fashion. And I came across some information about supply chain, and somebody was talking about it in reference to drawing a circle and how each element in the circle impacts something else. And so I'll just go through this real quickly. Let's say A is ink, all right, and B is the plastic that maybe you use for packaging something. C is the gas that you use if you're going to go out and deliver things or pick up supplies or whatever. D is rubber. E is seeds. F is fertilizer. G is tin. H is enamel. So we'll kind of back this up again and say, well, what if this was herbs that somebody was growing and marketing, and these are all the elements of what they need in their supply chain. All right, when B goes down, all the rest go down. When all the rest go down, you can't just start back up again. So if B depends on gas and B goes down, A can't get what A needs. And if the guy with the gas can't get gas, well, now that's going to impact more. And it's going to impact all the way around the supply chain circle. So what happens if somebody has to scale back because they can't get supplies, then everybody accustomed to getting their supplies is going to have to adjust to what's available if things are still available. And when a business shuts down, let's say everything turns around and in 2 months, oh, well, everything's back to normal again. But can any of those businesses that shut down just start up again? So I want you to think about that, and it's something that I've been thinking about, just because if I'm going to send things to you, I need to have a certain type and a certain amount of supplies. So I'm trying to be very mindful of that right now, because if that supply chain delivery stops, then there's a shift, and everybody's got to shift a little. So I just want you to think about that a little and how that fits into your life, okay? So anyway, don't forget about our special this month, and I will mention again that virus relief, and it's written up in the blog and the information on the special on our website, contains, it's kind of a multi-layered group of energies to address certain different things that might be going on in the body related to a virus that's very much in the news. Okay, so I want to share some Q&As. This one came to me today. I was going to give away patches, and right now I'm visiting in Uganda. Because people here aren't able to get filtered or distilled water, I'm not sure about doing that. It's available as spring water, but not in villages, and the costs make buying it unavailable. Is there an alternative solution that you know of? And my answer here would be, it's better to have patches and to give them to people with the available water than no patches at all. So, you know, if you're in a situation where you can give the patches to others, I would go ahead and do it. If I was the one in Uganda saying, well, what shall I do about this? I would go ahead and do it. So I want you to be aware of that answer. Yes, there's always an ideal situation, but sometimes we don't live in a perfect world. Okay, the next question was, I've now bought quite a few of your separate patches, and I'm worried about putting them all together into station water because there might not be enough energy fields of each one, so it might not help much for all the fields that need healing. What's the best way to do them? Now, I always say when you get your vial or you get your patches, depending on what country you're in, I like to set things up separately. And then once they're set up, I will go ahead and add them to a central station that I have. But I always want the separate things. For instance, if somebody comes to you for arthritis relief or pain relief or inflammation relief, you might want to only address that if they're not accustomed to any of the information about plasma energy. They have no understanding of it, and so you're able to give a simpler explanation and a simpler presentation. So that's always my first choice, and I always like to have the separate bottles of things so I can have the separate spray bottles for the same reason. And that's going to come up here in some more of the things that I'm reading to you in a little bit, and you'll see why I always recommend that. But the other thing, people get worried, well, are there too many energies altogether? Okay, let's look at plasma energy like people. If you go out to lunch with 3 of your friends, you're sitting there at the table, did you become the other friends? Did one of the other friends become all 3 of the others of you? No, you maintain your separate energies. Now, the energies of one or the other of you might affect the others, especially if it's, say, a matter of laughter. And then everybody gets to have a boost of their laughter energy. And if you've ever gone out to lunch with somebody with kind of a downer situation or story, you probably have felt some effect of that. But you did not become that other individual. Now, the same thing happens if you're in a crowd. Let's say there's a birthday celebration, and there's a couple dozen people there, and you're all in, say, a living room, kitchen, dining area of somebody's house. So all the energies of those people are all together. But you're still your separate self. You don't become the other 24 people. But again, the overall energy of the get-together might be one of joy and laughter, depending on what the situation is. And then everybody's somewhat impacted by that energy who's open to joy and laughter at that time. So think of your energies in that way. The other thing I want to say about that is how we've always, always, always stressed intention is so important. Masaru Emoto showed that in the messages in water. And each of his separate jars, when he was doing the experiment, had a single message on them. Whether it was joy, happiness, love, whatever it was. And if you haven't seen the information, go look it up online, because it's really fascinating to see the more positive energies that he described in his intention on the jars end up looking like really beautiful snowflakes. He did a few that had more of a negative alignment to them, such as the word war or something, and those energies were dark and blobby looking. So it's worth taking a look at that information, and it's easy to find online. Masaru Emoto and the messages in water. Okay, so then another question. I've been getting certain supplements from someone in the U.S. who's a very good scientist. And a few days ago, he had a suggestion in his information, and it was that in having enough fulvic acid in the bloodstream. And he explains why in the information he's giving. So the question is, she says, I know it's in your detox and pain relief, but if it checks out correct, is it possible to include it in virus relief? Now, if her question is, will that become a GANS if you just add it to virus relief? No, it will be virus relief plus whatever that fulvic, the format of that fulvic acid, if it's a powder, if it's a liquid, whatever. But just by adding it to a GANS that's already been put together does not turn it into a GANS. The GANS making process, if I were to do that with say the single fulvic acid, is anywhere from a 2 to 4 to 5 month process, just depending on how many things there are that are being broken down and just the entire process. It is not an overnight process. You're going through a breakdown where you want to extract the plasma energy from those items that you're breaking down. And then that plasma energy is what can be used to change the water. Okay? So, let's see. Okay, so I think those were all her questions. And then I had a conversation with a therapist, and this is someone who uses the, what I would call some of a frequency machine in some of the therapy that they do. And she had information show up on herself, but didn't understand it at the very beginning, and it indicated sarcoidosis, which is a pretty severe lung disorder. And she kind of just left it aside and didn't pay much attention to it until someone who actually had it came to her for some therapy sessions. And then when she really delved into it and saw the information on it, it certainly made more sense to her on how that information might apply to her. Now, this is an individual who sent us the herbs that she was taking that she used in concert with this frequency machine, okay? And the herbs that she was using every month cost her about $1,000 a month. Well, that gets pretty expensive. So she asked us to make a GANS of it, which we did. And it took us several months, just like I just finished explaining. But what she found is once she had the vial, first of all, she didn't have to buy $1,000 worth of herbs a month, and she could use the vial to change the water and then utilize the plasma energy water in the lung with those herbs that applied to the lung condition. I recently sent those, and if you go back into my January or early February videos, I did a phone call with Steve, who has COPD, and it's 4-stage COPD, and he has some of the lung support and is using it in a many-pronged approach. And what he has found is that it took several months, but he's been able to go from walking with his oxygen from the house to his workshop and then being too tired to do anything in the workshop, to walking to the house, from the house to the workshop without his oxygen, and actually being able to do a few tasks out there. So that's a huge improvement for him. And I just want to mention that the energies of lung support are part of what's in virus relief, because the many aspects of this virus seem to indicate that a certain aspect of it is that there can be some severe pneumonia type reactions, some severe lung reactions for some people. All right, and then she said that with a dry cough, what people with sarcoidosis are trying to do is to expel what is collected in the lungs. And so that's what the lung support herb GANS, the plasma energy of it, is helping with. And she also said that sometimes smokers, in her experience, will have too much iron in their blood, and it's a condition called hemochromatosis. And the iron starts to collect in the body, and what it does is it causes certain areas of the body to harden. And when she has encountered this condition, one of the things that the research has shown is that if you give blood and give your body a chance to rebuild your blood, it seems to help with that condition. But there's a fine line between the blood giving too often, and then becoming somewhat deficient. So it's a balancing act. She did go back to say with the sarcoidosis that there's nothing wrong with bloody discharge, that someone that's working with that, in her experience, she suggests they keep drinking, they spray the water on their body, they spray the water on their chest and their upper back where the lungs are. So, if you're adept, you're going to reach back and spray it yourself, or you're going to ask somebody to help you with that. And just let it dry on your body. And the other thing that she suggests is anybody that's dealing with that, to be sure and soak the clothing that's going to touch their upper body, and soak it in that water, and then as they're wearing that clothing, they have the energy fields. Because what she said is sometimes it's hard for people who don't make a habit of drinking a lot of water to get around to drinking a lot of water. So that's just another way, using the spray, using the approach of having it in your clothing. Now, another thing she did, she has the UTI vag water, and she used it for a 17-year-old incontinent dog. And she said when she drinks that water, it controls the incontinence. And she had it all under control, and then for some reason the dog started, being incontinent again. Well, she finally figured out she was drinking out of the other water dish, and the other water dish had the plasma energy station water in it. And so what she did is she just combined. When she combined the waters, then everything was under control again. And now she says this dog needs something for her eyes. And so we were talking about it, because one of the things she did to get more of the presence of the UTI water with her dog and not worry about, well, she needs to drink out of this dish, she just soaked a ribbon and tied the ribbon around the dog collar. So now there's always a presence of the UTI on her dog, and that's what helped bring it under control. So when we were talking about the eye, she says, there's no way I'm going to get within 5 feet of her with any eye drops or anything else. She'll go berserk. And I said, well, can you do anything with the spray bottle? And she said, she'll go berserk. So we finally came up with, well, why not do a second ribbon and do that around her collar, and let's see what that does. And so that was one of the things that we kind of brainstormed to see what she could do. And maybe she can occasionally come up behind her with the spray bottle of eye relief water and just get it on the head and see if she can make any progress that way. But the highest and best use of the eye formula is definitely in the eyes. And people have asked me, well, can't I just use the water instead of using the oil part of it? And Dr. Paul always said, when you put watery drops in your eyes, you tear them out pretty fast. And when you put oil in your eyes, as you blink, it'll go down in this lower part, and as you blink again, it'll come up over your eye again, so you have a much longer contact with the plasma energy on your eye surface. So that is why he preferred the method that he used and the method that he taught. And it was the method that was taught to him. There's some other things, and again, it's in using the KANSIR water. You can say that out loud and figure out what that is doing, and finding that adding that in the drinking can help from the inside out in her experience. So that was something else that she was sharing with me. And there's somebody that had issue with the whole 5G thing because of nearby 5G tower, and then somebody 2 or 3 houses away had lots of electronics in their house. And so that's where we talked again about not only can you use the Shungite, and see, I have a way to wear this all the time when I wear my this was Paul's watch band, and it was a watch band that couldn't be repaired without taking all the turquoise stones out, because heat used to repair for holding a watch would ruin turquoise. So I found a keychain with his name on it. So now this is my Paul bracelet. But it was a little large because his wrist was larger than mine. So I attached a Shungite magnet to the bottom of it. And now it just fits perfectly. So it's a good way to get my Shungite on my wrist and have it with me all the time. And you can carry a magnet in your pocket. You can wear a pendant. Of course, I have it on the phone, the TV, anything that's electronic. I have the Shungite magnets on. if it's the Wi-Fi router, if it's the computer, if it's the printers, all of those have the Shungite magnets on it. And I had a friend of mine call me. He was working on a bunch of paperwork, and he was in a room where the Wi-Fi is and the computer, and he said he got a headache, and he was just, man, what have I got a headache from? And so he just happened to think about it, and he reached over and got one of their pendants and put it on and just kept working, and realized about a half an hour later, no more headache. So that's pretty awesome when you can help alleviate conditions like that. And the information with the Shungite, again, is the Shungite is complete minerals that come from a certain area in Russia. It is said they contain everything on the periodic table. And those are combined with silver GANs, plasma energy water. And then that is all combined, and what we do with these is they're combined. As you can see, that's a little round Shungite. That's put in a candy mold so it can harden, and it's put in with a magnet. And that little silver circle in it that you can see is the magnet. But the Russian and Japanese research showed that the magnet, the silver, and the Shungite were very effective with the torsion fields, our beneficial torsion fields, and I'll do this because I'm facing the camera, I'll do it backwards. They go clockwise, okay? The non-beneficial torsion fields go counterclockwise. So I did give a Shungite magnet one day to a woman I was sitting at a table with, and she said, "Oh, my hand hurts. I've had something going on for 3 weeks, and it hurt right there." And I had one in my pocket, and I said, "Well, here, why don't you just stick this on your hand and just, hold it on there, or just take it on and off all afternoon while we're here together." Well, she put it on her hand, and she gave me a really funny look, and she handed it back, and I said, "Well, don't you want to keep it?" And she said, "My hand didn't hurt anymore." She put that magnet on her hand, and whatever was going on changed. And it's got me wondering if maybe the energy fields of pain are counter to our beneficial body energy fields, which go to the right. Just a thought, just a question. I have no scientific data on it, but it's just something for you to experiment if you have the Shungite, okay? And, the therapist I was talking to, she said it was really pretty funny because she got a big chemical sprayer that you would use to put something in to spray your garden with, but she had plasma water in it, and she said last year she was standing out under her trees spraying up inside the tree with this sprayer, and she said anybody going by would have wondered, what is that crazy woman doing spraying stuff in the tree, and she's standing right under it with no mask or anything on. But she didn't care if the plasma energy water got on her. Well, the funny part of this story is they traveled during the winter, and when they came back, the ground was covered with snow. They live, in an area that has plenty of winter. But she said right around an area around the tree where she had sprayed real heavily, there was, if the ground was clear, there was no snow. And the snow had an opportunity to blow and pile up, as it does in many parts of our country. Sometimes if you're in a warmer climate, the snow's there and it melts within a day. But some of us in the northern areas that get more snow, sometimes you'll go out, it didn't snow, but it blew, and now you got piles of snow everywhere. So the other thing that happened is while they were gone, neighbors kept sending pictures of the elk in her yard eating her shrubs, but they weren't in any of the neighbor yards. Well, there you go. The animals just knew they were getting a better quality of what they were eating in her yard. So that was kind of fun to hear about that. And, oh, one other thing she did